Welcome to the Born to Be Brave YouTube show. You guys, I'm so excited. One of the first people I ever met in the Sub 2 community was Barb Posada. And so, welcome to the show, Barb.
Thank you so much, Colleen. I really appreciate it. This is definitely an honor for me as well to get to chat with you like this.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And, my goal, one of my goals, I have a lot of goals, but one of my big not Whitney's, Everest, is to empower women over 40 to get educated and invest in real estate and businesses so they don't have to work until they die and they can have some fun in their life along the way.
That's an amazing goal. I love
Right? So
it.
so welcome, and you're my target audience. I think you're over 40, right?
I am. I usually, when people ask, I say, "Oh, I'm 29," but we all know that that's not true. I am actually a 54, a very proud 54 young lady, as far as I'm concerned. It's how you feel. Age is but a number. I don't really pay a lot of attention to it, so yeah, I don't think anybody's too old. I just think that if you don't follow those dreams, then you're just going to regret it later. So I'm all for it with the 40 and over, like showing others that we can do this. Because as you'll get into, I'm sure we'll see that I started this very late in life.
Yeah, so and that is what is so cool is everybody's stories, right? So
Yes.
tell me, how did you get into, I know, let me just tell everyone right now, you do real estate lending. It's called She Lends, and you do that
Yep.
with Caitlin,
Yes.
and you own an RV park with
Yes.
Caitlin as your
Yes.
partner, and then you do small business acquisitions, right? Help people with
Correct.
that.
Correct. Yes. So Manny Castillo is my partner in that endeavor. Um, so as far as how I got started,
Yeah, what's your
I
backstory?
My whole, so I'm originally from New York. I kind of lived that dream, right? Where I followed my dad through his story, where he went from, someone who came into the country, didn't know any English, to becoming a VP of a huge financial corporation in Manhattan. And as I was growing up, I always said, that's what I want to do. I want to be just like my dad. So I really followed it for quite some time, living in the corporate life all the way through, like working for two of the big four firms, Ernst and Young and PricewaterhouseCoopers. The unfortunate story that I share is from 9/11 was truly a pivotal moment for many people, but for me, it was the last time that I ever worked in Manhattan. I spent 15 plus years working in Manhattan, and just as I was about to go back to work after having my daughter in 2000, I spent a little bit of time home being with her. And when I was ready to go back to work, my interview was supposed to be actually on 9/11
Oh my
at
gosh.
30 in building two for Deloitte and Touche, where one of my former bosses had moved to. So thank God she's okay. But it scared everybody enough. And I lived about 40 minutes away from there, so I didn't have to be commuting yet. That being said, I'm able to tell the story, but it did change a lot, right? I then moved into the hospitality world where I worked
Mm.
for hotels and resorts for Starwood, who are now Marriott. With that, we transferred down to Florida, which I very adamantly did not want to do, but it was for the benefit of our children growing up in a better environment. So we did that. And then I moved into the restaurant, food and beverage with Darden, restaurant company that owns like Olive Garden, Longhorn, Bahama
Mhm.
Breeze. And I spent 14 and a half years working with them as a senior IT change management specialist. So I'm Six Sigma certified. Therefore, I do a lot of process improvement initiatives and help people kind of determine how to do what better. And there's always a better way to do something where you can save time, money, and resources. And that really became the backbone of my career that I was eventually trying to grow into. And then a catastrophe in my house led to a flood in the downstairs of my almost 5,000 square foot home. My son, his wife, and at the time my 3 week old grandson were living downstairs when our home got hit by a surge of lightning and flooded
For
everything.
real? A surge of lightning?
For real, in Florida where it rains all the time and there are no lightning poles, like I can't make sense of that. It just doesn't make sense to me. But yep, so that's how we got hit. And in the midst of 2020, where it was just so chaotic as it is, COVID on the rise, and you didn't really want people in and out of your house. So coming from a very handy family. My father-in-law taught pretty much everything he knows about building, rebuilding homes and all to my husband and my son. And so we just did it ourselves. And afterward, it was kind of this revelation, like, why aren't we fixing and flipping homes? Like, a lot of people make money doing this, but it didn't become a thing because my husband's been an entrepreneur forever. He's had his own company for many, many years as a network engineer. And my son and I were both working for Dart. And it's kind of like, when are we going to have time to do that? And we'll put it on the back burner. So I was home recovering from a surgery, and I saw some videos about, I guess I'll leave the names out, but I did see about another mentorship that kind of taught me a little bit, and I know you know who I'm talking about. But that led me to being a little bit more open about, I'm interested in this. And, they would teach you like the tip of the iceberg of everything to, pique your interest. And I went to Texas for a live, like a convention about it. And I was blown away. I was like, I really want to do this, but I didn't want to do it with them. So when I came back home, I did some more research. I started pairing up and working with other women in groups and just kind of increasing the knowledge that I had already had that little taste of. And I came upon a woman who was trying to sell her home. Unfortunately, she was not in a place to be able to do that, and wholesaling was not going to work in this situation. But a sub-2 situation was absolutely the way to go. I Googled sub-2, and who do you think came up? But there's Pace Morby. So I joined an elephant challenge. If you're not familiar, it was like one of the first, like, never left behind, but it was an elephant challenge. I met somebody there who was also from New York and had just joined. And, my mentality at the time was, let me get my first deal and then I'll join. Not realizing how backward that mentality was.
Yeah.
Quicker I could get a deal if I was part of the community. So I joined, and I don't regret a single thing ever doing it. My thought initially was, let me do this part-time while I'm working. But I realized very soon that I wanted to have more opportunity to spend more of a focused time. So an opportunity came up at work where I had to make a decision. And I don't regret this decision at all. As much as I did not have issues with the corporate space, I loved my job. I made great money. I had great friends, had nothing to do with that. But I took some time off while healing from a surgery, and I said, I'm going to focus only on real estate and let's see what happens. Well, in that time, I wholesaled my first property and made like a $25,000 assignment fee. I got my first long-term rental, and I had a property that was initially supposed to be for an Airbnb. That was the thought. And this is one of my partners on that was Manny Castillo and Louise Wiggins. So these two, I decided, okay, I've got this property, it's under contract. Let's work together, because I firmly believe that this is not a business that's designed to be done on your own. This is something where you have to collaborate and you have to work with others. So about 2 weeks after I'd gotten it under contract and negotiated a great deal, my father fell ill, and they still live in New York, and I'm his healthcare proxy. And I needed a disconnect from what I was doing and pay full attention on my dad. And next thing you know, I'm in New York, and this Airbnb idea that we had couldn't happen, because I'm the kind of person that if I'm not 150% invested in what's going on, I'm not delegating that to other people and just assuming it's just going to get done. Like, I want to be part of it. And so we decided to sell it. A little thing I will add into this is that's also how I met Caitlin, which she's a blessing. I can't say enough about the amazing partnership that she and I have developed. But that was the instance in when I met her, because she had called me when I was in New York, interested in this property, but realized it wasn't good for her. She took the time to explain to me why. And, we just kind of built a a really good relationship just based on that alone. And when I came back from that endeavor with my dad after he was all better, I said, you know what? I need to step away. It's time to step out of the corporate space, pay full-time attention to this, and let's see where it goes. And if I need to go back to work, I'll do it. And it's 2 years later, and here I am. So, so many wonderful things have happened over that time. So it's definitely the best decision that I've ever made.
Yeah, and I think getting into community is crucial.
100%, 100%.
Mhm.
It's not the same. And I've met a lot of people who've contemplated on, and let's face it, someone doesn't have to be part of sub two in order to do this, but you do have to be connected and communicating and collaborating, networking, and finding your tribe, right? I usually follow the mentality of whoever you have around your fire is basically your people, right? So without that, I just think it's not impossible, but it's definitely not as successful and it's not as much fun. So I'd
Well,
rather be successful with people, than try to do it on my own.
and it is more fun.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, the people that I've met in this community so far, and there have been many, because I mean, even before I got into real estate investing, I always had such a strong belief and a proven belief that networking is the key to all success because number one, it's an exchange, right? It's not just I'm going to talk at you. It's about let's collaborate, let's talk to each other and have an exchange of value. So I did that in the corporate space, and it's other reasons why there were successes for me there. So why not apply that into this world? I mean, it's certainly applicable to any space that you're in. It's huge. It's like a huge value that a lot of people seem to miss sometimes. They don't understand it, and they don't understand the criticality of networking sometimes.
I
So,
think networking is crucial.
without a doubt, without
Yeah,
a
because
doubt.
it's usually the who that's going to solve the problems you have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm.
It's, when you look at it sometimes and they say it's who you know, I guess some people don't understand how to absorb that as not being like you can only be successful with people. Again, the success is the collaborative effort, right? That who brings something, you bring something, the others bring something. So it becomes sort of this group effort, but everyone succeeds together. And it's so much more gratifying that way.
How did you start lending money? Because everyone, I think lending money is one of the best ways to make money in the real estate space, especially if you're in a corporate job and you don't want to like be an active investor, you want to be a passive investor. So how did you get started in money lending?
So that is where Caitlin and I really took off. So once we started that sort of checking in on each other after my dad and being, him getting better and all, she and I continued to kind of check in and start this dialogue where we were progressively becoming friends. And she has an amazing story. I'd love to convince her to get on with you as well, but
I would
good
love
luck.
to interview her if she'll do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she's gonna hate me for saying that, and she probably will want me to speak for her. But anyhow, that's another story. She's not as comfortable in this setting, but she's amazing. So she has an amazing history in real estate where she's done the burst strategy. She's got short-term rentals, long-term rentals, commercial property, and she decided that as a stay-at-home mom with 6 children, she would just become her own uh, mortgage broker. Like she decided to get her license, and so therefore she wasn't having to go to someone else to do these loans for her. And with that, she kind of started. She was fully educated anyway in the world of lending, and then as she shared a lot of that with me, and we started to build more of a trusting partnership. Um, she created this She Lens. That's definitely her brainchild, and of course, women love that, but we do lend to men, obviously. We have male staff, people that work under us, right? Or for
I
us, I
love
should
it.
say.
But I love it.
Yeah,
She lends.
it's amazing. And so she's a very um intelligent woman, and I mean, underwriting is her superpower. Like, she can look at something and 3 seconds later tell you, nope, it's over leverage, or this one's perfect. Like, we can lend on this. And we've always made it a point to be extremely careful about protecting our money, because we've used our own capital in order to fund these loans.
Mhm.
The company does do hard money lending. We use our private money, commercial lending, DSCR loans, so all of the necessary real estate type loans, right? And it's it's made us kind of a power play in that space, right? And we've been able to secure attorneys who write our docs for us. We work with amazing TCs. Ella Ray is fantastic. She's done so many for us. And quite frankly, it just became so easy, right? I mean, if the numbers are right, it can happen. Relationships are amazing, and we just talked about how important those are to me and to being successful. But the reality is, in the lending space, relationships are not enough. Relationships help, and they kind of bring people together, but if the numbers don't lie, right? So if unfortunately there isn't enough to cover, we're not lending any of our money, nor would we ever lend any of our, we call them student lenders, like people that wanted to lend with us. We will not put any money at risk ever. So we can say and promote ourselves with the utmost confidence to say that if you're lending with us, you're safe. And that's very hard for other people to say, because we've seen what goes on out there, and
I've
it's
seen
not
a
pretty.
lot. It's not pretty.
Oh, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. So, but yeah, and so that's how the lending came about. And because of that lending and relationships, that's how the RV park came to life. Whereas we had an attorney come forth and share with our uh, employee a deal that unfortunately this gentleman who owned the RV park could not sustain. He was
Can't
falling
afford.
under, he was about to lose the park. And, our guy knows that, we are the creative gurus and can figure anything out. So basically, in a very long 10-month story short, we basically put together an LOI that we presented as the way to the bankruptcy plan, because we pushed him into bankruptcy, and this was the bankruptcy plan that would be followed. So as I said, 10 months later, we were finally able to close out on that. And I just posted a bunch of videos and such of our first time being there and onboarding our former owners as now our maintenance people that they're going to be there to manage.
Well,
And
that's
it turned out
awesome.
win-win. Yeah. And he started it from the ground up 19 years ago, I believe. And, he just wants to see it flourish. He didn't want to see it lost and be taken from him officially. So
It's
it
just
gives us warm fuzzies, right? To think about that we're able to be successful in this now lane we're picking to stay consistent in, right? We want to stick with RV parks and mobile home parks. Affordable housing, workforce housing is so needed right now. So we'd like to continue that on. And we have him there to help support that. So that's pretty fantastic.
that's great. Where's the park at?
It's in Texas, in
Mm.
Alvin, Texas. And another thing that we like to kind of call out is the fact that we are, and this is kind of Caitlin's thing, is where we're coining the phrase LTRV park, which is long-term RV parks, right? So with that said, it's 100% capacity right now. It's which is, knock on wood, we'd like it to stay like that. And everybody is there, no less than 3 months. So it's
Wow.
usually 3, 6 to 1 year uh, leases. And it's just been great so far. Like, there's just minor things that we're going to do to improve the park, but it's really running very well so far. And people are there and they don't want to leave. There's waiting lists of people wanting to get in, but there's no more spots for them until we add in a couple more RVs. I think we've got 3 more, and then we're finishing off the cabins, got cabins and RVs. So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. We're excited
I
about it.
it's beautiful.
and now that we've kind of picked this lane, we have just recently looked at an RV park that is also an adventure park for off-road. We're
Hmm.
really excited about this one, and when I have more to share, I definitely will. But put little teasers out there because we're the lenders are becoming the borrowers. We're looking at doing some fractional lending potentially because we've got so many people that have approached us over time saying we want to lend with you guys. Like we don't have vast amounts of money, but we want to be able to lend. So we'll put a cap at the amounts. But for people who want to do that and they want to do it safely, then we now have a really good opportunity for them to do that.
I love that. And we'll give your contact information at the end so people know where to get a
Yeah,
hold of you.
fantastic, for sure.
So for women, or
Mhm.
men and women, we love the men too. I've been married for
Yeah,
37 years. We love our men. But
for
let's
sure.
but I do feel like women sacrifice a lot for their families or for, and they just, I don't know why there's only like 30 to 40% of investors are women right now currently. And I'd like to see that number really grow. And then when you go to real estate investment seminars, it's all men, it's one or two women up there. And so as we look at talking to women who are in their 18, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, wherever you're at, 60s, what advice do you have for them to like they're thinking, where do I get started? What should I do? I've never done something like this before. Like you'd never done something like this before. What advice would you have for them?
That's a perfect question for me because I recently went to a meetup that it was not a sub two meetup, but it was just women gathering. And I did have a very young girl approach me who was just getting into real estate, and she was just blown away by some of the conversations that we were having about, business acquisition or RV parks. And she's like, gosh, I would love to get involved in all of that. And I immediately said to her, don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to take action. You're going to fail, and that's only going to teach you lessons. Like lessons learned are probably the most important things that you can ever step away from any experience. And truthfully, there's so many resources out there, to your point, men or women. But I mean, there are so many strong women. I mean, I think Pace told us, at Squad Up Summit, he said there's like 51% of sub two is women, which was,
I know.
kind of
Isn't
funny.
that great? And there's tons of women on his stage and he
Oh,
highlights
yeah.
women.
I love
And
it. I love it. I love it. And so for her, I really just said, if there's anything of course, I put myself out there because that's what I do. But I said, if you need anything at all to get started, please call me because I don't want you to have this desire and this passion and it go wasted where you're not being able to take action on it. And then, years pass and you're just not doing it. You're at the prime age, she was probably 21. And I said, I wish I would have known what I know now back then, and I would have absolutely been involved in this a lot sooner. So it's really just jump on the bandwagon, get yourself involved, go to the meetups, meet the people. I don't know that joining any mentorships that are out there other than the way the community style pace has set up for sub two is going to benefit her. And I was very clear with her about that. I said, I've learned and I've looked into a lot of them because I didn't just, immediately sign without doing my due diligence, right?
yeah,
I had to make sure I was doing the right thing. But the reality is just don't be afraid to do something hard because failing is part of the process. So that's what I
right.
would say.
You,
That
it is,
it.
that's so good. I love that advice. And failing is part of success. And you're going to make mistakes. You're going to lose stuff. You're going to make bad connections and you're going to learn from all of it, right?
Absolutely. I've done it myself. I mean, I have my fail stories, it happens. It happens. So, but again, I mean, if you don't learn from those mistakes, then that's certainly not beneficial, but you have to fail at least once or twice to know what not to do next time.
Yeah, I always say God cannot steer a parked car.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah,
It's
you,
a good
you
one.
got to get moving, right? And then
True.
other opportunities will open and present themselves to you, and you'll learn from the bumps in the road and the detours, and then you'll get back on track and you'll find your
Uh,
groove. and things will work out. But if you just stay still and you don't take any action,
That's where you're
nothing's
going
yeah, nothing's
to.
going to happen. You're going to live with regret. One of my friends is a nurse, and she said when people are dying, the people that don't want to die, that have really bad regret, are the people who didn't do anything with their lives that they wish they would have done.
And that's the saddest thing ever. Like that literally, I mean, I got chills when you said it because I don't think anybody wants that. And
Mm-mm.
a lot of people, unfortunately, based on their situation, they just, the years pass and they pass and they pass. And, you get to a point where it's like, why would you ever want to have to look back and realize that there are things that you didn't get to do when you had the chance? And, I mean, sometimes it takes an older person to realize that, but you know what? Life's not over at that point. Once you
Mm-mm.
realize it, act on it. And so that's why, like, even for me, that transition, like, I was the practical one, like I said, my husband was an entrepreneur, is an entrepreneur, and he has been. I was the one with the steady paycheck, with the retirement plan, with the life insurance plans, like everything that working for a company does for you, right? But then you hear the Cody Sanchez's and all the other people who are like, do you really want to work your entire life for someone else, making them successful? And it's it's hugely empowering to know that you can be, creating your own fate and your own destiny by just taking action. And so sometimes a few people need to hear that a few times before they actually move on it. But I mean, it's what we all need to do to reach the goals that we have and not feel that regret later on in life, because that's rough. You can't do anything about it at that point.
No, and she says it's real. Like the ones that don't want to die, she's like they have a life of regret, right? And she said the people who have done what they wanted to do in their lives, they're very peaceful about dying. She says it's interesting to watch the difference.
I can imagine. Yeah, someone has that peace to know that they've done whatever it is that they want to do in life. It's probably a lot easier to let go, but yeah, that's so sad. My gosh.
Yeah, yeah, it is interesting, right? And
Yeah,
yeah,
I definitely don't want to be that person.
and
So
you're not, right?
no,
So
definitely not.
Pace had the lady, I can't remember her name, that climbed Mount Everest come speak to us, the first lady
Oh
in
my God.
America.
Yes, yes, she was amazing. So many things that she said, it's and that's why I love to hear the speakers, because they come in with their story, but there's so many things you take away from that are applicable to your own story. I may not be climbing Mount Everest, but there are those peaks and that, like, we all experience that in one way, shape, or form. So I'm highly motivated, even more so when I hear stories like that. And I mean, you heard her. She was pretty amazing. She was
Everything
pretty
relates to real life, right? Because the first time they didn't get to summit and they had to turn around, otherwise they were going to die. And then, but she came back later, right?
amazing.
And I think giving up, I think the key is to never, ever, ever give up
Yep.
a- and just keep going and just keep moving forward because it's the only time you really fail is when you actually give up because then you for sure done.
That's I listen, that is something I have been raised with. My parents always used to, my maiden name is Stratford, so they used to say, a Stratford never gives up. A Stratford never gives up. So I would, of course, now with my Posada family, I'm like, a Posada never gives up. So it's like you just kind of have to instill that from young and realize that you're right. Quitting is truly what's going to prevent you from being successful.
Do you have a Mount Everest?
Because I've heard so many people ask that question, I feel like, okay, I need to have a good answer to that. And truthfully, my Mount Everest, whatever that looks like, I know it needs to be providing that generational wealth to my family. I mean, they are absolutely my why. I mean, internally, without being selfish, of course, there are things that I want to do to make sure that I can check the box on success. But I know that I would not consider myself successful if my family didn't benefit from all the work and the things that I've done in life. Like, I want them to know that every bit of happiness and things that they've done for me, I want to be able to provide that back for them. and so right now, I feel like crossing over that bridge to, for example, the RV park space, picking a lane, that was always very hard for me to do, not just in real estate, but even in my professional endeavors in the corporate space, right? I always felt like I can, I'm great with communications, or I can be a marketer. I have an undergrad degree, or I can do this and I can be really helpful. But it took several of my mentors over time to say, you need to pick what you want to be, to emulate that, to then get into that space. And that could not be more true. So I think that now that, Caitlin and I have picked this lane, I feel like getting to that Mount Everest is going to be that much easier. Having that direction, having that like kind of North Star that we can look at and say that's where we're headed feels that much more empowering. And it's almost like that light at the end of the tunnel just got brighter. I don't want to get to the end per se, but the end of the tunnel representing success and that feeling of Mount Everest, like that's what I feel like I now see.
Yeah, you have more clarity.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. I
Yeah,
didn't have
because,
it before.
huh?
I didn't have it before. I mean, you know, let me try to wholesale. Let me fix and flip. So I've done a lot of the things
Hmm.
and I wore a lot of hats, but I started to realize that I was kind of replicating the old me in the corporate space, saying I can do the communications and the marketing and the whatever. And while it seems really great to be flexible sometimes, it's not always a plus, right? You need to be focused and you need to have that specific place that you want to be. And so that's why I feel like between this and the business acquisitions, those are the two lanes that I definitely want to keep myself focused on because I feel like those will be the most beneficial. We'll
Hmm.
have ways of repeating kind of what we learned and learn from those mistakes and the lessons and all that could be applicable into new and other parks, and as well for the businesses, right? We want to be able to focus on acquiring businesses. Some will be for us, some will be for other people, but we'll have the ability to continue to have those conversations with owners and the baby boomers that are, don't have children who want to take over their business and be able to provide them a solution for their future. So like, a lot of them didn't plan to not have someone take over their
Yeah,
their
they thought,
business.
yeah, they
They
thought
need
their
help.
kids would want it.
Yeah, a lot of things they're hearing now is like, nope, we have no desire. So what do they do after they've worked so hard all their lives to build this business and nothing to show for it? So that's, like I said, what Manny and I have goals of doing this year is making sure that we can set them up in a way where their future is not so drab, right? Now they have something to look forward to, and we can continue their legacy in business.
What kind of businesses are you going to focus on?
We've talked about this, and I think most commonly the ones that are like HVAC and plumbing, the home services,
Hmm.
management companies, things of that nature seem pretty obvious as being businesses we'd like to be able to
Focus on.
acquire, landscaping, things that are going to be relative to the real estate space also. But like accounting firms, those types of services that we know other people are looking for, right? Like we want to be able to help others in their endeavor looking for businesses. So if that means that we can build rapport, because we've been pretty good with developing rapport with people. Annie and I kind of have this good tag team uh, type of dialogue where we've had these conversations with owners, and we like to let them know that we're there to help. We're not trying to take anything away or diminish, anything that they've done in their business. We want to see it grow and help them kind of see that vision of their legacy continue on. So I think, the services, like I said, accounting, um, I don't know about the whole e-commerce space, but again, it may be what someone else is looking for. And if it's not something for us, then we can help others and, increase their business and their profiles with other businesses that they're looking for.
Yeah, it's good. There's so many baby boomers aging out, and then then their kids don't want their business, and so it's a huge space that's going to continue to grow.
For sure.
So It's good. I have a question for you. My show's called Born to Be Brave,
I love it.
and it's not fun. We're all born to be brave, and I do feel like everyone's living like below their divine potential. And
Yes.
and so it's like, okay, we can do more, but and we can never outperform our self-identity either. It's really important. But when's the time that you feel like you are brave in your life that you feel comfortable sharing with us?
I mean, I think the most recent experience of me showing that I was brave was really walking away from my W-2. It's not something that I would have ever thought that I could have done. Again, being that practical fallback for my family was very important to me. I mean, my husband's always done amazing. He's always taken very good care of us, and he's always done well in his business. But I, but knowing that I had the backbone of practical day to day always made me feel like I would be able to keep my family safe. So while I had this opportunity to break away from it comfortably, it still was very scary for me because I didn't know anything else, right? I didn't know anything about real estate. I knew nothing. I mean, I barely knew how to buy my own house. Like, you know what I mean? And nothing. And for me to step into this space that was totally new and completely out of my realm of study in the past, like, I went back to school late in life. I got my undergrad degree in 2007. I got my MBA in 2011. Like, I didn't think I was going to be ever in another phase of life where I would take on something that would have such a vast learning curve where I knew nothing. And so for me to take all of that and step away from it was a very scary thing to do. But, something inside me said, if I don't try this and see if this is um, what I'm put on this earth to do, and if this isn't what's truly going to show what my success is, then I'm going to be upset about it later. I'm going to regret not making this move. So to me, I think it was a brave move. I've heard others feel like that was brave of me, but I just wanted to make sure it was brave and not stupid, right? Like, but there's always a way to, again, failing forward, right? If I failed at this, not what I hope that's not. If I were to fail in this space, what would I do? I'd go back to work, right? I go back to a W-2, but I didn't want to make this decision to then have to go back to that. That would have made me feel worse. But not taking the chance and saying, no, you know what? I can't leave comfort would have been a big mistake. So I feel like that was something I really had to kick up the bravery in me and just make that final decision and do it. It was hard. It was really, really, really hard.
It takes a
I
lot of
mean,
courage.
yeah, yeah. And I knew something, like I said, something in me just said this was what I needed to do and figure it out. And so that's what I
I
did.
love it. You listen to the voice in your head, right?
I did. Sometimes I'm like, shh, but no, this time I was listening. So it's good.
That's good. How do you balance having a family and running your business?
That one, I hear my mother right now in the back of my head saying, "You work more now than when you were in your office." And so she has a point, right? Because when it's your own, you tend to put more time into it. And I know that in the long run, we're not going to be trading time for money, so to speak. But a lot of these things are new endeavors, right? So my family is extremely, extremely supportive, and I have two amazing children. My son Richie, he's got his own construction company. So he and my husband, the two of them, they have their company. They work together in addition to my husband's network engineer company, but they work hard, and so they know what this grind is like, and so they appreciate it. And we're in the same headspace when it comes to that. My daughter, she's working for Publix. She's like striving for management. She wants to do big things. And so she understands it. And she repeatedly says to me how proud she is of me and how she just wants to be like me. So it makes me feel great. And it's not I am as present as I can possibly be for my family. And then um my grandchildren, oh my God, forget it. I mean, I think we're all equally obsessed with each other. It's like amazing. I love having them around, and I'm spoiled rotten because they live downstairs. So when, I feel the need, I don't just like walk in on them, right? Everybody's got their privacy or whatever, but I just have them close, and it's wonderful being able to just kind of grow, them grow up with me in their life. And I mean, I make all the sacrifices I need to for my family. It's always been like that though. So I do find that there are times that, I'd like to be relaxed and watching a movie or writing with my husband or like doing something, and sometimes that doesn't happen, right? Sometimes duty calls and the business needs my attention. And I do my best to try to keep that for distinct hours of the day, but sometimes it's going to happen. But we all have each other's back. We all support each other, so it works out well.
I love that. Isn't being a grandma the best thing ever?
Listen, I remember a coworker of mine saying to me, "Barb, trust me, you're gonna see it's a different kind of love." I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I love my kids to death. Like, I can't imagine what that means." She said, "I'm telling you, just wait." Oh my God. Well, my grandson was right now I have two, right? So I have my grandson Ray, who's going to be 5, and then my granddaughter, who's literally in 2 days going to be 2. Raymond is like the both of them, of course, but they're different stages of life, right? So Shay is just beginning to speak, but Raymond is all about like, grandma, can we go play? Can we do this? Can we do that? And I'm just like, I love every second of it. You know what I mean? I just like I melt for these kids. And now Shay's more grandma. So it's definitely a different. I understand what they say now about a different kind of love, because it's like all the things that you were scolding your kids to do, you're like, oh well, it's my grandson. What am I gonna do? I mean, even though I respect my
Yes.
children, I respect my children's wishes. So if they say they don't want him to have or her to have something, I do respect it. I don't like to kind of go too um beyond, right? And um I don't want to disrespect them, and I don't want them to think it's okay to disrespect mom and dad's wishes, right? Of course. But we just have it's like a special kind of bond. I mean, it is the most amazing thing ever. Yes.
No one can explain it to you because you don't believe them until it happens.
Oh, until you have it. That's my whole point. It's like when they said
Yeah.
that to me, I'm like, what are you talking about? That's nonsense. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah. You can't imagine you could love somebody more than you love your own kids. And then it's like, oh, I do. I do.
yes, yes, that is so true.
Yeah.
How many do you have?
We have two about the same age, a 5.5 and 3. So
I love it. Oh my God, it's so fun.
I'm so in love with them. Like nobody can explain it to you. I have another
Yes.
question for you. What have we not talked about that you think we should talk about before we wrap it up?
Well, I think one of the main things right now for us is, because I mentioned earlier about, being lenders, but now, of course, looking to borrow. I think it's important for people to know that, you know, we we know what it's like to be on the other side, right? We are lenders. Our lending company is not going anywhere, right? And we, as I said, have used our own capital to do so. That being said, we understand the importance of money. We understand the importance of passive, processes, which this is one for sure that's going to knock it out of the park. We would love to have people on this ride with us because it's become something so personal to us that, like I said, for us to be the ones out there now kind of raising capital and trying to pull these projects together, we want people to understand the goals: workforce housing, affordable housing, giving people this kind of safety net to know that they will be taken care of is really important to us. So, we'll have our pitch decks, we'll have our conversations, we'll have our, opportunities to kind of share more specifically about the project, but just know that it comes from a place of helping others, right? And that's truly if I have to say that, and I have to say it over and over because I need people to understand that while there are people out there that do things for personal gain, and there's nothing wrong with that, yes, I would be lying through my teeth if I didn't say ultimately there would be a personal gain, right? Because then why
Of
do we do
course.
business?
Yeah.
But we do not feel like we would be successful if we are not making someone else's lives easier or helping other people. And that goes down to the former owners of the part, like everything, right? We look at everyone part of the project and we want everyone to succeed. So when it comes to us now looking for capital, we want those individuals to know our integrity is strong. It's something that we have ultimate goals in mind to help other people. And if that's something that they're interested in doing and want to be a part of that journey with us, then those are the kind of people that we want to work with. And we'd love to have kind of, that opportunity to be able to share and grow with them in this new endeavor.
It's exciting. Yeah. So where can
It is.
people find you so they can find out more? How does people reach out to you?
Well, I'm happy to give all the information that's needed, right? So my number is 407-498-5652. Emails, I would give my She email just because it's so much easier. Barb, BARB, at SHE hyphen lens, S at the end, .com. And I'm most people see me on Facebook anyway, so I'm sure you'll find me there. And then Instagram handle is Barbie like the doll, P it's in Peter 15. So I think those are kind of the main channels that anybody can find me. And please feel free to reach out anytime. I'm an open book, so if there's any way I can help other people, or if you'd like to collaborate in any way, I'm here in Florida, Central Florida. And but nationwide is where the lending takes place from the lending company aspect. And if there's anything we can ever do to help, please feel free to reach out.
Yeah, Barb's awesome. You guys can obviously do your own investigation and due diligence, right? Because with lending and money, of course, we love relationships, but the money, trust, but verify, 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 verify.
Correct. Yes, yes, 1,000 times for sure.
Right? Yeah, that doesn't matter how much you like a person. Please verify.
That's right. That's right. It's
Verify
it's
the numbers.
saddening, but it's true. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I'm still a realtor, but I was in real estate forever. When I would sit across the table from someone to talk to them about listing their house, they think they're interviewing me, but I'm like, they don't even know. Like, I'm like interviewing, like, how difficult are you going to be? And when I'd ask
Right.
people, so how much do you think your house is worth? And they'd give me some like crazy number, right? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Can you tell me how you came up with that number? Like, did you pull that out of your butt? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
what houses have sold near you that can justify, please tell me, how do you justify that number? Because I would love to get that number for you, right? But I'm just
Yeah.
trying to figure out how you came up with that. But I think that that is so important. Trust, but verify.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, it's really hard because I know that there are definitely illusions that people have about their homes and all of that, but the numbers don't lie,
They
regardless of
don't.
whether it's to sell a house, to lend money, to borrow money, whatever it is, the
Whatever
numbers
the
will always.
deal is, when you underwrite it, the numbers don't lie.
Yes, that is the truth.
Yeah,
That is,
ever. They don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
And people should be a little bit more hesitant on just kind of throwing money around because they know people and they need to protect themselves. So that's our business. So we know it very well.
You know it very well. Well, I'm so excited about that you found a lane.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, I have not found my lane, and I'm in the middle of figuring out my lane. I'm been moving forward, but I don't know my lane yet. Do you know what I'm saying? That I know for sure. Oh, this is what like you shifted, like for sure it's your
Yes.
lane.
It took a long time. I mean, I
Mhm.
joined in October of 22. So
Mhm.
believe me, you're in 25 and now is when I figured that out. But I mean, you'll know when it happens. You'll know when
Yeah,
it happens
yeah, it's
for
coming,
sure.
and I'm learning so much because by interviewing people, I didn't even know there's other lanes out there that I would
Of
never
course.
even think of. You know what I'm saying? Like I was interviewing a guy, just felt prompt. I saw his post in sub two. And God said, you should interview him. So I messaged him and asked him because his post was fascinating. And I interviewed him and I'm like, ooh, that's a really cool business. I would never think of that. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Of course, I know exactly what you're saying. You know, you're putting yourself in a very good place. And again, I mean, I've said this a million times over, but I will always learn more from people than any book I'll read or video I watch. Like I feel like people's personal experience is probably the best education and the best knowledge that I could ever get. That exchange, like I said before in the networking piece, it's about learning from other people and then, you know, kind of figuring out at that point, you know, is there something we can do together or not? But it's still experience is highly valuable.
it's crucial. And I just felt like I should start this YouTube channel. And I'm really glad I did because I'm having so much fun, but it also gives people a free resource to be like when I went to Squat Up Summit, this is the last thing I'll share before we go. But you know what's so funny is this lady came after I checked into my hotel room. I was just
Mhm.
sitting, visiting and networking with people out front, and this lady came running up, and I've just started my show, right? I'm still really new, right? But I interviewed Pace, which has kind of like people want to
Sure.
watch the Pace interview or whatever. It kind of helped, my trajectory a little. But so this lady comes up to me, and she goes, "Are you Colleen Lowe?" And she's a young lady. And I said, I am Colleen Lowe. And I'm like, she goes, I just watched your interview with Pace on the airplane. And then the next interview that popped up changed my whole life because it was a
Oh,
woman I interviewed and she thought she couldn't, it was a young mom who just invested in an RV park and she has a W-2 and a kid, right? And so this lady was
right.
thinking she was coming to Squat Up thinking she couldn't do it because she's got kids and, works and all this stuff. And what's so cute is because she watched the next interview that popped up after after the Pace interview,
Phase one.
she
Mhm.
gave me a big hug and she's like, I can do this. And I was like,
Oh,
oh my gosh, I have accomplished my goal of my YouTube channel because that's what I want is
oh.
just people to be like, oh, I can do this. Like, do you know what I'm saying? And it was free. She just watched the
Motivation
video.
and empower them. Yeah, to be empowered. I mean, that's amazing. That's so cool. I'm so excited for you. Congratulations. I love that.
Yeah,
I
it's not
love that.
fun. And that's why I just want to talk to all of my people that I love. And that's why I reached out to you because it's like,
Oh,
okay, I already knew I loved you and I loved your energy and what you're doing. And I'm like, I'm just going to start reaching out to all the people I love and just keep interviewing them because sometimes I think, oh, what am I doing this for? Right. And then when she said that, I'm like, okay, I got to keep
now,
going.
yes, that's wonderful. That's so amazing. Well, I adore you. So I appreciate you reaching out to me. And I mean, I love talking to you just because we don't have to be online
It's fun. Yeah,
critical.
I'll talk to you anytime. But I just think that your interview is going to help inspire somebody that we just don't know who it
Hope
is yet.
so. I hope so. Yeah, that fingers crossed. Let me know if they say anything to you about
I
it.
will, because I connected those two people at the conference. I made sure they met each other. Wasn't that cute?
Yes, I love it. I love it. Well, feel free to connect me with whoever you think I can help in any way, including yourself. So
Yeah, I
I'm
might
always
reach
available.
out to you. I don't know, because RV parks is on my mind. RV parks
But
and assisted living, things
yep,
like that. Things with older people and
they
the
need
aging,
help.
yeah, the
Yep.
aging
I have
baby boomers.
a special place in my heart for the elderly. I've spent my whole childhood around them. My it's just yeah. I want to be able to make sure that they're people that go out in life knowing that they're loved and that they can be taken care of, and even if they don't have, children or family to do it. I mean, there's other people, there's other purposes in life, and that's one of ours. So
Yeah, and we don't need to throw them away. They're right
no,
because no, because in our society we don't honor our old people like other societies do. I don't know why,
I
but
don't either.
interesting. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the show, and then we'll let you know when it's coming out. And you were just
Okay.
awesome. And thank you, gorgeous.
Thank you, sweetheart. Take care. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, gorgeous.